The fortnightly so-called satirical magazine called Private Eye has got on its Twitter account the boastful claim that it is out, the next issue is out and is available at the newsagents. Let's check what it is actually saying. This is time of 10 hours ago, this post. So this one being 2021 GMT. Just before midday on Wednesday, the 15th of November 2023. And the cover picture is remembering the fallen. Last post for Suella. Now, Suella is, of course, a reference to the just sacked UK Interior Minister, known in the United States as Home Secretary. Suella is the daughter of parents who migrated to East Africa, Goan origin. And then from there, they came to the United Kingdom, where Suella was born. Suella is allegedly a believer or practitioner or a member of the Buddhist faith. We shall talk about that shortly. So this is Private Eye, issue number 'What is the issue number? Is it 1611? And the date, the period, the fortnightly period covered officially is 17th of November until the 30th of November 2023, and the price, cover price is £2.99. £2.99. And the picture on the cover of the slide that is shown here is there is two bubbles. The speech bubble, allegedly Suella saying, we can't have extremist troublemakers enough. And then Rishi Sunak is saying, okay, you are fired. So that's remembering the fallen. Last post for Suella. And it says the biggest letters underneath that image of that cover on shelves now, that is news agents shelves now. That is a lie, because on the week of the publication of the private lie, which I renamed Private Lie about 31 years ago, during the campaign for the rights of the old editor, and his developers, Pissoff. Reality by Jan Pissoff has been his mocking of the Baby Angel Geronimo. The Baby Angel Geronimo was attacked by all the son, Dominique Lai's son, and assorted others did the same thing. Jan Pissoff, who is a very tiny individual, because when he kind of makes any intervention, he does that, I think, conscious of the fact that he has to have maximum kind of impact. But it is never really full of impact at all. It always comes across as pseudo serious, pseudo intelligent, pseudo clever. By Baby Angel Geronimo symbolizes purity, absolute authenticity, absolute innocence. And Baby Angel Geronimo is just like the angels who will give testimony on the day of judgment about the conduct of every human being. Baby Angel Geronimo is witnessing the evilness, evil thoughts and evil deeds and evil roles of every single individual making any comment or intervention. So Baby Angel Geronimo did notice and has noticed and is noticing the criminals, every error and mistake, Now, what do I mean by the criminal's every error and mistake? For example, this claim on the cover of the Private Eye, underneath the cover, posted on Private Eye's Twitter account, on shelves now. It's a reference to shelves of newsagents. So on the every fortnight, the official date of the publication is the Friday. So today is the 15th, which is Wednesday. Tomorrow is 16th, the Thursday. And the actual date of publication is the 17th, which is the Friday. So on the Friday is the official date of publication. But 2 days before that, lie is usually available at selected outlets. The one that I have been using for the last 1.5 years or so has been partly Tesco, a Tesco outlet in Essex. And since I moved to London in November, exactly a year ago, the Sainsbury's in Stratford. But for the last 3 or 4 issues, that would be 6 to 8 weeks, Private Lie has been unavailable, both at Sainsbury's and also at W.H. Smith's. I made a phone call once, and there was a kind of gibberish full of explanation which didn't make any sense at all. And there is nothing on their website that tells you the truth about the state of their circulation. So that's the other thing, is that all the items that they publish apparently in the section called In the Back concerning legal cases, they are so obscure, they're so stupidly written, and the most inaccessibly, idiotically written pieces about the state of the law. So you might as well not read the fucking thing. For example, this piece in the last, that is still current, of Private Lie about John Meeting, about the special undercover police abusing their position and raping women campaigners starting from the 1960s, well, covering from the 1960s. It is so stupid that it makes no sense. Now, my understanding objectively of journalism is, of course, first and foremost, enlightenment. So I began active examination of the contents of the newspapers and magazine in the 1950s. The 40 plus, and this is now the 7 decades, I've been studying newspapers, and I have not found one single title in any language that has actually broken anything original. So I shall talk about the newspapers completely redundant in due course in another piece. But this one, it says the private lie is on the shelves. Now it is not. I made several trips today looking for the fucking new edition of the fucking private lie. And why did I do that? Because I wanted to see if the fuckers have caught up with the Sang Sunak so called reshuffle in text, I mean. And the creeps are obviously not up to date. So when I do get to see the latest edition, which is 1611, volume number 1611, dated the 17th of November. To the 30th of November. I don't act any breaking content, any breaking copy in there about either
Finder hasn't added support for that with Siri.
Either the resurfacing of the creep David Cameron or the so-called sacking of the evil one Consuela Ibila Cruella Fernandez. One comment that has come on the social media during the day, Wednesday, the 15th of November, attributed to Michael Howard, who was leader, but he was not a leader of government, but he was a leader of the Conservatives. I'll come to what he said in a minute. So Howard is now a member of the House of Peers. So his style is Baron Howard of Limpne, born Michael Hecht, 7th of July 1941. He is a British politician who served as leader of the Conservative Party and leader of the opposition from November 2003 to December 2005. He previously held cabinet positions in the governments of Margaret Thatcher and John Major, including as Secretary of State for Employment, Secretary of State for Environment, and Home Secretary. Howard was born in Swansea, that is in Wales, to a Jewish family. His father from Romania and his mother from Wales. He studied at Peterhouse, Cambridge, following which he joined the Young Conservatives. In 1964, he was called to the bar and became a Queen's Counsel in 1982. So 18 years later, he became a QC. He first became a member of Parliament at the 1983 general election, representing the constituency of Folkestone and Hythe. This quickly led to his promotion, and Howard became Minister for Local Government in 1987 under the premiership of John Major. He served as Secretary of State for Employment, Secretary of State for the Environment 92, 92-93. That's what later became DEFRA and Home Secretary. Well, DEFRA became a department by mixing a number of departments. I'm looking at Michael Howard because I want to see a reference to Boris Johnson. I'll check if there is any reference to Johnson. Now, this is only one reference to Michael Howard and a comment on Boris Johnson, which says in June 2022, Howard called on Boris Johnson to resign as Prime Minister. Let's see. Anyway, Howard was the one that actually sacked Boris Johnson as a member of the shadow cabinet when Howard was leader of the Conservatives and leader of the opposition. Let me just check if I can find this one, this incident. Boris Johnson sacked by Tories over private life. Now, this is on The Guardian. That was in 2004, so 19 years ago. Tory MP Boris Johnson was sacked from his party's front bench last night over lurid claims about his private love life. His fate was sealed by the mother of his alleged mistress, Petronella Watt, who said her daughter had become pregnant by him and had an abortion last month. Johnson, who is married with 4 children, had categorically dismissed the allegation and assured unable to he had earlier This is nothing to do with personal morality. Last weekend, all this came up. Michael stood by him and said shadow ministers can live their lives as they want. It was not a matter of him, said one, but it's a matter for him when shadow ministers don't tell the truth. Howard offered Boris Johnson the chance to resign, but Johnson insisted on being fired. The episode brings an end to an unlikely but uniquely engaging political career. Johnson, 40, who is also editor of the Spectator magazine, became one of the few modern Tories able to capture the public imagination, even provoking speculation he could be a future leader. He had already survived the now infamous Spectator editorial accusing Liverpool of wallowing in its grief over the death of hostage Kenneth Beagley after visiting the city to apologize. But the saga of his alleged relationship with Spectator columnist Wyatt was the last straw. Reports first emerged last weekend that Johnson, married to barrister Marina Wheeler, had had an affair and that his mistress subsequently had an abortion. While he denied it, when Petronella's mother, Lady Wyatt, was asked if the two were having an affair, she tellingly, not anymore. Today's Mail on Sunday claims Wyatt had two abortions, the last one paid for by Johnson, and that he had offered to leave his wife. Asked about the abortion claims, Lady Wyatt reportedly said it had been just one. She confirmed the relationship to the News of the World, saying her daughter had realized it was going nowhere. Johnson said last night, I am very sorry this decision has been taken in response to tabloid stories about my private life. Very much looking forward to continuing to promote the policies we have developed on the arts and will do my utmost to serve my constituents in Henley. Now, this is not true because Petronella Wyatt had two abortions. Now, to have extramarital affair is one thing, but to force the woman to have two abortions is committing murders. Now, there is a piece on the LBC and Rumar 18 years later. Apparently, according to this one, Michael Howard said that he should not have sacked Boris Johnson over allegations, says former Tory leader. That's not what he said at the time. He didn't sack him over his affair. He sacked him because Johnson lied about it. Think about that. So Michael Howard is fucking looking, kind of losing his mental fiber, isn't he? Okay, so Michael Howard is kind of getting his brains mixed up. At the time when he sacked Johnson, he didn't say it was anything to do with the affair that Johnson was having, or has had, or had been having with Petronella Wyatt. He clearly said that he was sacking him for lying about the fact. There's a very distinct difference. And now, 18 years later, the fucking Howard says blithely to Andrew Marr on LBC that he doesn't think he should have sacked him for that that Boris Johnson's private affair with Petronella Wyatt. Now, Michael Howard has popped up in the social media on Wednesday, the 15th of November, about Suella Fernandez. Let's check what he has popped up by saying. All right, 1 hour ago, it's in the Guardian. It's not the social media that I'm just checking, and this is on the Guardian. Former Tory leader denies ex Home Secretary's scathing letter to Sunak means party is turning on itself. Again, so Howard is saying, Michael Howard said in an article in the Telegraph that the government is better off without her. Alita Adu, political correspondent at 10:05 GMT in the morning. Suella Braverman will be forgotten. The former Conservative Party leader Michael Howard has declared. Lord Howard criticized the tirade of abuse in Braverman's letter to Rishi Sunak, but rejected claims that the former Home Secretary's words had left the Conservative Party turning on itself again. Howard believes Sunak is doing his level best to confront the challenges facing Britain and is making very considerable progress. Using the latest inflation figures as one example. In a scathing 3-page letter published a day after she was sacked as Home Secretary, Braverman warned Sunak that she intended to spearhead a Tory rebellion over the government's Rwanda plan. She wrote, someone needs to be honest. Your, that is Rishi Sunak, plan is not working. We have endured record election defeats. Your results, your resets have failed, and we are running out of time. You need to change course urgently. A group of right wing conservatives have accused Sunak of abandoning the voters who brought the party to power in 2019. As anger among some backbenchers grew over Braverman's sacking and the surprise return of David Cameron. Howard told the BBC's Radio 4 Today program, it's not unusual for there to be disagreements within government. If you have a disagreement with the policy of the government or the policy of the Prime Minister, you either resign or you accept. She chose not to resign, and it's only since she has been sacked she comes out with this tirade of abuse. Howard added, I don't think the party is turning on itself again. I think Suella Braverman will be forgotten. However, Howard recalled the first time he met Braverman soon after she was elected, and they reminisced about the by election her mother had fought under his leadership of the party. Writing an op ed for the Telegraph, he said he had watched Baberman's conduct with regret in recent weeks, as she had failed to reflect on the meaning of her own words. Thinking of common good requires one to put the common good before personal ambition and pique. Braverman has failed to live by those words. The government is about her, he wrote. Braverman was sacked on Monday after opponents accused her of stoking tensions before pro Palestine marches in London, days after claiming that police had applied a double standard to protesters in a newspaper article. Now, going back to the private lie is benefiting from what I consider to be the blackmail syndrome. The BBC has been paying, under the pretext of the "Have I got news for you" slot, has paid over the years millions of pounds to Ian Pissoff. And I believe that is a strategic program of bribery so that private lie would not use its nuisance ability, cause trouble for the BBC by running stories against the BBC leaked to the private lie by disgruntled BBC employees or ex employees. So there is really no accountability for the actual license fee, no accountability for the money that the BBC spends, no accountability really for private lie at all. As I said earlier at the beginning of this edition, the pieces that the private lie publishes in the section called all right, this is the piece, the private eye, issue number 1610, that is the previous issue, which is still the current issue until coming Friday. Spy Cops Inquiry, issue 1610. This is called Meeting Needle. It is so obscurely, stupidly written that it might as well not be written. Because although there are startling data inside it about the millions of pounds being wasted, there is no A to Z analysis of how the corrupt legal bureaucracy operates to suppress any access to legal remedies for ordinary people. For example, it says the inquiry has so far spent 70 million pounds, which means meetings 110-page interim report cost the taxpayer £636,000 per page. And then it says only covers that report, the interim report, only covers the first spying period, that is from 1968 to 1982. There are 5 more stages for meeting, and his 90 strong team of lawyers and support staff to examine. And it doesn't explain or even describe what the fuck this 90 strong team of lawyers are there for. Who appointed them? Why are they there? What is it that these so called lawyers are doing that other intelligent people with relevant knowledge and experience could not do? So, in issue 1585 of Private Lie, dated the fortnight 4th of November 2022 to 17th of November 2022, the cover marked the appointment by Rishi Sunak of Suella Fernandez to the Home Office. And the symbol coming from Suella Fernandez's mouth says to Rishi Sunak, "You've united the party." And the speech bubble replying to that, coming from Rishi Sunak's mouth, is, "Yes, everyone agrees I shouldn't have appointed you." So, what is happening with the Rwanda decision that the Supreme Court has delivered? According to this item in the Guardian, on the Guardian website, so the website humanrightswatch.org says Rwanda not a safe country to send asylum seekers, and its byline to Emily McDonnell, Dr. M. McDonnell, Officer, UK Advocacy and Communication. And there is a picture to the piece with people carrying placards, including one, "Rwanda policy must be stopped." Protesters hold placards outside the UK Supreme Court as it rules that the UK government's Rwanda asylum plan is unlawful. London, United Kingdom, 15th of November 2023. Today, the United Kingdom's highest court found that Rwanda is not a safe third country for the government to send asylum seekers. This is a huge victory that will protect the rights of countless people who have come to the UK seeking safety. In a unanimous judgment, the Supreme Court agreed with the Court of Appeal that there are substantial grounds for believing that asylum seekers removed to Rwanda would face a real risk of being returned to their home country where they could face ill treatment known as refoulement. This would put the UK in breach of its obligations of non refoulement under international and domestic law. This decision vindicates what many have already said. The deal is not only cruel but unlawful. The Supreme Court drew attention to Rwanda's poor human rights record, including the threats to Rwandans living in the United Kingdom, alongside extrajudicial killings deaths in custody, enforced disappearances, torture, and restrictions on media and political freedoms. When the government, when the agreement between the United Kingdom and Rwanda was announced in 2022, Human Rights Watch wrote to the UK Home Secretary expressing that Rwanda could not be considered a safe third country given ongoing human rights violations. The UN High Commission, I'll read that again, the UN High Commissioner for Refugees gave damning evidence of systemic defects in Rwanda's asylum system, the potential lack of independence of the judiciary and lawyers, and the 100% rejection rate for people from conflict zones, namely Afghanistan, Syria, and Yemen, likely countries of origin of asylum seekers transferred from the UK. The UNHCR also presented at least 100 allegations of refoulement, a practice that continued after the UK agreement was concluded. While the court accepted the government argument that Rwanda had incentives to uphold the agreement and that monitoring arrangements provided a further safeguard, the court stated that intentions and aspirations do not necessarily correspond to reality. The court found Rwanda does not have the practical ability to properly determine asylum claims and protect people from refoulement. The Prime Minister vowed to introduce emergency legislation to confirm Rwanda is safe. However, the UK cannot legislate away facts or its international obligations. The UK government should abandon its unlawful Rwanda deal and not pursue similar agreements. This should be a warning to other governments considering externalizing and shifting their asylum responsibilities onto other countries. The UK should also scrap its recent Illegal Migration Act and instead create a functioning and fair asylum system that treats people with compassion and allows them to find refuge in the UK. Now, this woman, Dr. Emily, let's check about her. Dr. Emily MacDonnell, UK Advocacy and Communications. Let's check on her. There is nothing in the UK so called civil kind of realm that represents the truth about the international situation today. There is one sided, daily, poisonous, hateful propaganda against a phantom image. The phantom image is exaggerated 1,000 times. Although there is reference to the channel, the crossing, and the boats, there is no actual description of A to Z as to which countries these people come from, how many are actually fleeing, what kind of persecution and problems, and why is it that significant numbers of people who are found to have died while crossing are accomplished artists, sports people back in their countries of origin. And there is no examination, at least not in the form published by the Fleet Street newspapers and the British media, of any contacts between the United Kingdom and the countries of origin of these people. There is no reference whatsoever. So we shall be talking about all of those, and we shall be continuing. And at this stage, we leave this at 1 hour, 5 minutes, or 6 minutes incomplete.